Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I am still not in Southwest Florida, so I'm in the Midwest US. And what I wanted to do, let me tell you, the temperature is 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 7 degrees Celsius. So it's a little bit of a cool day here. What happened this morning is I had 5 yards of mulch delivered, and I've got to spread that throughout my garden area, so I'm putting it off as long as possible. So I thought I would do a video this morning, just so it'll put it off for a little bit longer today. So what I want to talk with you about today is hosta. I've got probably a few hundred hosta plants around my house here in the Midwest US, and I've been growing them for quite a few years. They're great plants. They do really well here. They do really well in the summer. In the winter they die back and they go into dormancy, and it really is a great plant for growing in the Midwest US. The thing about it is they're similar to orchids in one sense, in that they like bright light but not too much direct sunlight. There are hosta varieties that will do okay in some sun and in full sun, but not too many. Most of them like to be, I don't know if you can tell, I've got woods behind my house here, and this is mostly shaded in this area. I also grow the hosta here on the north side of my house, and where it's shady for most of the day, and they get really bright light, but not too much direct sunlight, and that's where they do well. Hosta likes also a little bit of moisture, so they do well in the middle of the summertime. Sometimes if there's not a whole lot of rain, they'll dry out a little bit, but for the most part they thrive and they do really well. They do well in just a variety of different soil types and conditions, but like I said, they do like to be in a shady location, not too shady. So really, you can't tell here, but we're on the edge of these trees, and then my house is behind you. So back here, it's a pretty open area. So it does get a lot of bright light, but right here, not too much direct sunlight. Maybe really late afternoon, so they can handle morning or really late afternoon, but not too much middle of the day direct sunlight. I've got a lot of hosta, as I said, around my house. And the thing that I wanted to share with you is, guess how many of these hosta I bought? Well, the answer is 0, none. So they were given to me by friends or transplanted from other homes and things like that. Interesting thing is, this isn't the first home that I've had in this area. So when I moved from my old house to this house, it was in December, and I actually transplanted my hosta in the middle of the winter. So you can transplant hosta, and you can divide and propagate hosta really all different types of the year. They probably don't prefer to be dug up in the middle of the winter, but they did well. I don't think I lost any plants, and they probably don't appreciate being propagated or transferred in the middle of the summer, especially if it's dry and hot. So, but springtime, this time of the year, is pretty much the perfect time, and it is early April. So this is the perfect time of the year to propagate hosta, and they're very easy to propagate. So there's a couple of different methods that you can use. What I do is this method right here. So I'll take these large bunches of hosta that I've had growing, and I'll just dig up. I'll slice them up into a few pieces and then transplant them to their new location. You can also grow them from seed, and a lot of the hosta that I have, I actually grew from seed, and it does take a long time to grow hosta from seed. So just be careful of that. And the other thing is, from seed, a lot of my hosta will, as they flower, they'll produce seed pods, and those seed pods will split, and I'll get volunteer hosta growing up throughout my yard, so I'll transplant those. I should also say that my hosta really aren't named varieties, or I don't know the names of the varieties. I just know there's big ones and small ones. There's green ones, blue ones, variegated ones. There's a lot of diversity that you can get in hosta. Big plants that will grow, you know, a meter, 3 feet off the ground, and then you've got really small ones, and the small ones you can use in borders, and the big ones you put in background. I really do like the blue hosta, the big, they're not really too blue, but they're kind of a bluish green color, big leaves. I really, really like those. It adds a richness to the garden area like nothing else. Flowers of hosta are also, they're nice. They're not really known for the flowers, and a lot of times people will cut off the flowers, but the bees love them. I've seen hummingbirds collect nectar from my hosta flowers, and the flowers can be nice, but there's really not much to it. After the flowers fade, you can get these seed capsules. Most of the time I cut those off because I've got so many of those. So anyway, these guys are really, really easy to propagate. Springtime, right now, April is the best time to do this, but really any time of the year is fine for doing this. When hosta grow in the ground, they can grow in as single plants. So you'll see in the springtime, you'll see the leaves coming up from single plants where the whole area is full and the whole thing grows up. And what you can do is you can take a quarter of that or a half of that or whatever amount that you want to and cut that out and transfer that to a new location. The other way, the way that I prefer to do it, is as your plants get mature, what happens is the new growth, they grow from on the outside, and the new growth will be on a ring on the outside, and the inside you won't have much growth there because there's so much old tissue, it's crowded and it'll be necrotic, and which is okay. But what I like to do is take, if you have a ring of growth, I like to take a little section of that ring and transplant that to the new location. Okay, so what's involved in this is pretty straightforward, and what I'd like to do is go through with you how I do this. So I take my shovel spade. You know, you just cut the plant. You just jam the shovel down into the plant. You've got to really pick, kind of look at the plant and pick see where the new leaves are coming up, and pick an area that maybe is where you don't want that other plant, where there's growing too close to something else, where it just needs to be split up. You can take 2/4 of it from opposite ends, so that you still leave 2/4 left. You can take half of the plant if you have small things, but and you can actually take one plant and get, you know, 25 to 50 different cuttings of that, depending on how small you want to make the cuttings. And then a single cutting is going to grow huge. These guys grow really, really quickly. They'll double, triple, quadruple in a single year. So again, I've got so many hosta growing in my yard. I don't need any more, but what I'm going to do is plant some hosta right here behind me. And the reason that I'm going to put this here is because hosta, because of this location, because I have deer, lots of deer in the woods behind me, they come out and they nibble and they chew, and they like eating my hosta, you know, in the summertime, especially when I'm not here. They just love it. I am a salad chef for the local wildlife here. That would be deer. I saw deer tracks in my yard when I was looking around to see what hosta I was going to move. I saw deer tracks in the yard, fresh. So these guys have been around, and they're snacking and they're tasting and they're seeing what's going on. And especially this area, I've seen them here, I've seen them over there. They come right to the edge. They don't much come really close to the house, but again, when we're not here, I think they get braver, and they'll come up right next to the house and eat the hosta. They love roses, hosta. They loved my apple tree. And so the deer are pretty aggressive, and they're hungry and they're big, so they do eat a lot. All right, so let's get down to how you propagate hosta by dividing. So you find a plant that is appropriate, and you essentially just stick the shovel. You find a good location where you want to split the plant that's growing there. And again, what I try to do is find an area that is growing away, that's growing, that where it's getting too big, and you just simply shove the shovel in the ground and lift up on it. Sometimes it's tough. This time of year it's so wet and it's been raining so much so that this comes right out of the ground. And that's really all there is to it. You kind of clean it off a little bit. I've seen people that go through a lot of effort and really take all the soil off of the roots. That's something you should not do. You should leave the soil on the roots. It's best as little damage as possible to the plant. And then you just pick that plant up, move it to its new location where hopefully you have a hole already dug, and you just essentially drop that piece of the plant back into the ground in the area, kind of stomp down on it a little bit. I've seen people use, various soil media, addenda, things like this, and fertilizer, and I with my hosta, I don't do this, and I have hundreds of them, and they do really well here. So, shove them in the ground, just kind of firm them in with your hands or your foot. And if you're transplanting and propagating in the summertime, give them water, continue to give them water. If you're doing it in the spring or the winter, the rain's coming, or in the winter they're not growing much, and then the spring will come and they'll be fine. You can also, I didn't mention fall, you can also propagate and transplant in the fall. In the fall and in the winter around here, what happens is the plant dies back, so all the green foliage dies back. And what I do, some people are like to keep things neat. What I like to do is keep that dead foliage, so those dead leaves on top of the plant. It kind of protects the plant a little bit. And then the springtime, this time of year, and I've already done that here, and I'll show this one for you, you can pull back where the dead leaves were, and you can see the new growth coming out. So I like to keep things covered and protected through the winter here. It probably doesn't need it, but I really like to do it. And then I clean that material off in early spring, and everything is good and ready to go. Okay, so that's all I have for today. I wanted to show you how I propagate the hosta in my yard in the Midwest US, and how it's generated so many different hosta in all locations throughout my yard over the past few years. All right, if you enjoyed my video and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video, and happy propagating.